on the data. Using a type of analysis never before used in an investigation of this sort, they have been able to shed more light on MH370's flight path. Based on their new analysis, Inmarsat and the AAIB have concluded that MH370 flew along the southern corridor and that its last position was in the middle of the Indian Ocean west of Perth. This is a remote location, far from any possible landing sites. It is therefore with deep sadness and regret that I must inform you that according to this new data, flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean. We will be holding a press conference tomorrow with further details. In the meantime, we wanted to inform you of this new development at the earliest opportunity. We share this information out of a commitment to openness and respect for the families, two principles which have guided this investigation. Malaysia Airlines have already spoken to the families of the passengers and crew to inform them of this development. For them, the past few weeks have been heartbreaking. I know this news must be harder still. I urge the media to respect their privacy and allow them the space they need at this very difficult time.
All right, that was the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Najib Razak, pretty much making explicit what has been feared for many days now, that the flight MH370 flew along a southern corridor before crashing into a very remote location in the southern Indian Ocean, very far from any landing sites. He says, with deep sadness, I regret to inform you MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean without any survivors. Now this brings to a close a tragic saga that has stretched for nearly 20 days, 18 days to be precise. It was 18 days ago that flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur on a flight to Beijing. It quickly fell off the radar. Investigations have proven that the aircraft veered towards the west, overflew Malaysia and several other nations before, apparently, now we know, crashing into the southern Indian Ocean in a very remote site which aircraft have not yet been able to access. Another press conference tomorrow by the Malaysian authorities, possibly by the Prime Minister of Malaysia himself, will look to provide more detail about how these new details have been arrived at. But it comes, remember, just 2 days after a Chinese satellite picked up pictures of debris in the southern Indian Ocean. At this point of time, it's difficult to corroborate if those pictures match with what has led to these final conclusions as part of what the Malaysian Prime Minister has just shared with the press. Pierre Mario Fitter is with me. He's been tracking all developments regarding the investigation, everything that has been said across media, across the world, and by the authorities themselves. Pierre, just take us in detail through what the Malaysian Prime Minister said. And this was expected for about an hour before this actually happened, when you had reported that the families were being ferried in chartered aircraft to Australia. This appears to be end game as far as the search is concerned, Pierre.
It appears to be the end, Shiv, for the search. And as the Malaysian Prime Minister said, I think all evidence at this point points to the fact that the flight ended in the southern Indian Ocean. Even if it had not crashed, we know that given the amount of fuel that was on board, it would not have gone any further than the location where the debris field or the possible debris field was located. And now the Prime Minister making it explicitly clear that at this stage, everyone has to accept that it was lost with all souls on board.
And it crashed with all souls on board. But he also said that this was a very remote site. It hasn't been accessed just yet. So was this, what kind of data were they actually relying on, Pierre, to arrive at what appears to be a pretty conclusive statement by the Malaysian Prime Minister? Was it satellite data plus some other data?
Yes, in fact, Shiv, from about the first week, or the end of the first week, if you remember, they'd reported that there was one satellite, the Inmarsat, which was over the Indian Ocean region, which had tracked the last known position on a southern arc somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean. And that data was corroborated by the National Transportation and Safety Board of the United States. That organization had received information from US and British intelligence agencies indicating a possible arc from the last known radar point of contact down south into the Indian Ocean. And Shiv, you know, if you look at the map on where this debris was being found over the past 4 or 5 days by various satellites, first the Americans and then the Chinese and yesterday the French, it's almost, it's more than halfway across to Antarctica. It's in fact closer to Antarctica than it is to Malaysia. How did the flight get there? No one knows. No one will probably know until the black box is found, if at all it is found at this stage. But that's the most likely route it took, and that's where sadly the Malaysian Prime Minister believes the flight ended.
I want to go across to Mohsin Mughal with CCTV in Beijing. He's with us on the phone line. Mohsin, thanks for speaking to us this evening. The Malaysian Prime Minister pretty much calling an end to what has been an 18-day an 18-day mystery over this disappeared aircraft. But it appears now, Mohsin, that multiple investigations, a lot of different data has finally been corroborated, leading to this conclusive statement by the Malaysian Prime Minister that flight MH370 crashed into a remote part of the southern Indian Ocean.
Yes, this actually Shiv brings a closure in a way to all the relatives who had been waiting endlessly in Beijing as well as in Malaysia. But what Najib Razak said in his press conference just 5 or 10 minutes ago was clearly saying that this was actually the end of the flight. Tomorrow morning is when they're going to share more details about what exactly happened, what flight path it was supposed to take, and what flight path it took eventually. And this is all, Shiv, I must tell you, based on information that that the Malaysian authorities have gotten from Inmarsat, which is a UK-based satellite navigation company that had been looking and helping into the probe. Because remember, 1 week earlier, also Inmarsat came up with a few details about where the plane was tracked and seen lost on their radar and satellite navigation systems. So right now, essentially, it's going to be based on the findings of what Inmarsat has told the Malaysian authorities. We also now know that this all data will be collated with the data that is being provided by the Chinese authorities, who've been actually moving their satellites, positioning and repositioning them to get the latest information. They're also trying to collate this information with the investigating agencies from the US and Australia.
Mohsin, we do know that most of the persons on board this ill-fated flight were Chinese. Is there any information that you can share about the families of those on board being taken to Australia or to Malaysia at this point of time? Because we hear that the families of some passengers are being taken on a chartered flight of some kind to Perth. Any additional information you can share?
What we now know, Shiv, is that most of these families had decided to stay back in Beijing. They're actually camping in a hotel right now. And just ahead of this press conference, they were asked to actually, all of them were asked to assemble in the hotel, in a particular area in hotel, and were asked to watch out for a press conference that that the Prime Minister was going to attend. And immediately after that, we are being told that most of these relatives have actually been asked, given an option whether they want to fly to Kuala Lumpur or to Australia. So it will actually depend on what more information is shared with them. Right now, we only know that they have been told there is a lot more information that the authorities are going to share.
Yes.
And they have been told that this will all come from Malaysian Airlines and the authorities in Kuala Lumpur. There are not many details available right now whether they will opt to fly to Perth or they will opt to fly to Kuala Lumpur. But we know both these options will be presented to them.
Okay, these options will be presented to them. Thanks very much, Mohsin Mughal, for joining us on this story. Big breaking news. The Malaysian Prime Minister has signalled end game for the search after declaring that MH370 crashed with no survivors in a remote southern part of the Indian Ocean. We're going to get more details in a press conference scheduled for tomorrow as well. But let's just play out for you what Najib Razak just said.
The UK company that provided the satellite data, which indicated the northern and southern corridors, has been performing further calculations on the data. Using a type of analysis never before used in an investigation of this sort, they have been able to shed more light on MH370's flight path. Based on their new analysis, Inmarsat and the AAIB have concluded that MH370 flew along the southern corridor and that its last position was in the middle of the Indian Ocean, west of Perth. This is a remote location, far from any possible landing sites. It is therefore with deep sadness and regret that I must inform you that according to this new data, flight MH370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean. We will be holding a press conference tomorrow with further details. In the meantime, we wanted to inform you of this new development at the earliest opportunity. We share this information out of a commitment to openness and respect for the families, two principles which have guided this investigation. Malaysia Airlines have already spoken to the families of the passengers and crew to inform them of this development. For them, the past few weeks have been heartbreaking. I know this news must be harder still. I urge the media to respect their privacy and allow them the space they need at this very difficult time.
Want to go across to Vikram Gopinath of China Central Television, who's with us from Beijing live. Vikram, the most categorical statement coming there from the Malaysian Prime Minister. It comes after 18 days of almost zero clarity on where the aircraft was. Massive speculation for nearly 3 weeks, not just about the aircraft and the flight, but also the pilots and the crew. So some sense of closure, at least as far as the uncertainty is concerned now, Vikram.
Well, indeed, Shiv, as of now, they've categorically stated that the MH370 is lost, and they could presume people on board will not be able to survive, have not survived this crash. It is clear that the flight was massively off route, and through the Inmarsat pictures and with what information the Malaysian Prime Minister gave, it is clear that the plane could have crashed somewhere in the southwest Perth in the Indian Ocean. So we have to wait for another press conference tomorrow for more details to come. But again, the big question is, where is the ADR? The flight data recorder of a black box. Only if they find that particular, the black box will be able to, tell exactly what is the reason behind all this, and that will take again a few months to actually find the black box at this point of time. But what we're hearing from the leader over here in Beijing is that the families are distressed completely. The Malaysian authorities have called the families, spoken to them, and they're making arrangements to fly them to Perth if required. But yes, distressing. The families definitely are distressed at this point of time.
And Vikram, we are expecting to get more detailed information, are we not, from the Malaysian authorities at some point tomorrow about the kind of data that they've been able to rely on that has led them to this, this first categorical and conclusive statement that's been made by the Prime Minister of Malaysia today?
Well, yes, Shiv. At this point of time, I guess the Malaysian Prime Minister would want to just convey that they have lost the plane, and that is a shocking message to the families. Probably they will wait for more evidence to come out tomorrow, maybe more images, and they might come out with images as well, which might be displayed at the presser that's going to be held tomorrow. More details about this whole crash, and maybe we could expect maybe information coming in from the UK as well, from the Inmarsat group as well. So we can expect more details about the whole crash tomorrow. But as we speak, we know that we have to wait for the FDR to be found. At the same time, we might expect another round of press conference from the Australian Prime Minister as well, and they might have more information, and the maritime authorities in Australia as well. So maybe we could expect more information, details about this reason why the flight actually went massively off route. Could come out tomorrow.
Thanks, Vikram, for getting us that update from Beijing. We'll keep in touch with you and for more information a little later. I want to quickly cut across to Headlines Today's Pierre Fitter, who's with me live and who's been tracking all aspects of this investigation, not just in Malaysia but around the world as well. Pierre, the first categorical affirmation coming in from the Malaysian Prime Minister on flight MH370. Obviously, a great deal of interest, like there has been over the last 18 days, online about what happened to the aircraft.
It certainly has, Shiv. I've been tracking the story on Twitter as people have been posting theories, but also a lot of verified reports from news organizations that are in Beijing, that are in Kuala Lumpur, some in Perth as well. In fact, just moments before the Malaysian Prime Minister made his statement live on television, this text message, if we can zoom in over here, was sent to the families by Malaysian Airlines itself, and pretty much summing up what the Prime Minister said, that we have to assume beyond reasonable doubt that it has been lost and that none on board survived. And he said we must now accept all evidence that the plane went down in the southern Indian Ocean. It was sent in English and in Chinese to the families. Remember, 150 odd passengers were Chinese on board. And there's a reporter, Gloria Rivera, from the United States, who's actually in that Lido Hotel in Beijing where the families had met. And she was reporting from the site that there was screaming, there was crying, and there was even reports that one woman fainted as the Malaysian Prime Minister's press conference was aired live.
All right, so there's a great deal of interest online, obviously, and there will continue to be over MH370. It's already trending at the top here in India. enormous amount of speculation that has simply swirled unchecked non-stop around the world. This was the one true international story that has remained on the front pages of newspapers and in the headlines, certainly here on Headlines Today, for the last 18 days, non-stop. Easily regarded as modern aviation's biggest mystery. It took only 5 days to track down the Air France 449 flight in 2009 in the Atlantic. It took 18 full days to conclusively, apparently affirm that the aircraft crashed into a remote site in the southern Indian Ocean. There will be, like we're hearing from our correspondents, more information made available at a press conference by the Malaysian authorities tomorrow. Remember that at this point of time, this categorical statement has said nothing about debris being found. So the actual information and data, empirical or otherwise, that has been relied upon to arrive at this statement is not clear just now. But there is every reason to believe that that information will be made available by the Malaysian Prime Minister and or the other authorities at some point tomorrow at a scheduled press conference. At this point of time, the first categorical statement that it's game over, it's end game, the aircraft indeed crashed with all souls on board. Well, Pierre is still with us. Pierre, you know, the number of theories that actually swirled over the last 18 days about MH370, you know, have been bizarre. There was talk of a hijack. There was talk of foul play. There was, you know, there was one theory by a Canadian pilot about a fire, you know, in the cabin, which led to a heroic fight, you know, to keep the aircraft stable and land it at a nearby airfield. There were so many theories. Is it likely that all that speculation is going to come to an end now? Because at this point of time, even if the aircraft, the crash site has been identified by the Malaysian authorities, we still don't know why it went down.
Exactly, Shiv, and you know, all of those theories unfortunately still alive, and because they just don't know why the aircraft ended up going in completely the opposite direction from where it was planned to go. Whether it was a fire on board that forced the pilots to make an emergency turn towards a nearby airport, as you were mentioning, the Canadian pilot said there, and then they lost consciousness and the plane just went on going until it crashed, or whether there was indeed a hijack and the hijackers put the plane into the sea. No one knows at this stage. This area is in very, very choppy waters in the southern Indian Ocean. Finding the black box in 3,000 meters of water, 6,000 meters of water is going to be extremely difficult no matter what kind of technology you have. We just don't know how this story, how this flight ended, but we do know that it ended with a tragedy.
And there will be a big effort to get the black box, which will hold, hopefully, all the answers as to why MH370 went down in that remote part of the Indian Ocean. For now, there's closure as far as the uncertainty is concerned, but we really hope that the families of the 239 people on board that aircraft who are now confirmed to have lost their lives and gone down with that aircraft will begin to find peace after what has been an unspeakable tragedy for each one of them. We will continue to track that story here on Headlines Today and get you the very latest from China, from Malaysia, and from the other authorities in the other countries investigating this greatest of modern aviation's tragedies.